Good morning, Shangam second grade readers. Today is Wednesday, May 27th. I hope you all had an incredible 5-day break. We got to use those unused snow days and attach them onto our normal Memorial Day break. I hope you were all able to get outside, enjoy some nice weather with your families. I also hope that you remember the real reason that we celebrate Memorial Day is to honor those fallen who have served our country and protected us. So anyway, today I want to dive into a new topic. Today we're going to talk about fables. And fables fall under the umbrella, imagine an umbrella, of the topic of folk tales. Now we've been learning all about fairy tales, but today I want you to think about the visualization of an umbrella. Imagine that folk tales are that umbrella, and then the things that fall underneath the umbrella, or the raindrops hanging from the umbrella, are fairy tales, fables, tall tales, and so on and so forth. So today I'm going to teach you all about fables. Since we've been learning all about fairy tales, we're going to shift gears and move into fables a little bit. So the first thing we have to do is we have to learn, what is a fable? So I'm going to get this started for us. So folk tales, a look at fables. What is a fable? A fable is a short story. It teaches a lesson which often includes animals that speak and act like humans. And we call that personification. So when you see animals acting like a human in a story, whether it's a fable, it is a fairy tale, or a fiction book that you're reading, we call that personification because an animal is acting like a person. Get it? So let's take a quick look at the differences between fairy tales and fables. Now, the elements of a fairy tale are that they have a special beginning and an end, or an end, excuse me. The special beginning is typically once upon a time or a long time ago. And the ending usually is, and they lived happily ever after, or it might be, and then they were never heard from or seen again. There's a good and evil character in a fairy tale. And remember that good character usually defeats the evil character by the end. There are elements of threes or sevens, such as the Three Little Pigs or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? There's usually an element of magic in a fairy tale. There's often royalty or a castle as the setting. There is usually love in a fairy tale, and there's often talking animals. So, what's the difference with a fable? Well, a fable is much shorter in length. It's a short story. The setting typically is outside, and it usually only has 2 or 3 characters. And those characters are typically animals with human personalities or traits. So again, that personification, that word that we just learned. Fables also have an element of trickery. There's always one character that is trying to trick another character or do something to that other character. Similar to a fairy tale with the good versus evil, but a little bit different. And then the main thing that fables are known for is for having a moral or a lesson, and that's always revealed at the end of the story. And oftentimes the stories will even end with, and the moral of the story is. So those are things that we look for when we are reading a fable. Shorter in length, taking place outside, only 2, maybe 3 characters. They typically have human-like animals, an element of trickery, and a moral or a lesson at the end of the story. So what are some examples of fables? And these are ones that you've probably heard of before. Hopefully, maybe you've heard of some of them. But famous examples of fables are the tortoise and the hare, the ant and the grasshopper, the country mouse and the city mouse, the sun and the wind, the fox and the grapes, the lion and the mouse, the fox and the crow, and the boy who cried wolf. And as you can see, Most of these titles have two different animals in them. So already you're seeing who those characters are just based on the title. And then again, that these animals are most likely going to have human-like traits. Now also on this slide, I put a picture here. And this says the classic treasury of Aesop's fables. Now, who is Aesop? And why do we think of Aesop when we hear the word fables? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, who is Aesop? Aesop was a Greek slave who is credited with writing 725 fables. So, this person who nobody really knows, he wrote down all of these little short stories. And much like a fairy tale, fables were originally told orally. And they were told to entertain, but they were also told to teach children morals and lessons. So fables, again, were made mostly for children, and they're short and they teach a lesson. So if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense to have animals act like humans and be the characters, because that's very entertaining for children, and we want to teach our children a lesson or a moral. So, speaking of that lesson or the moral, as I stated before, a lot of fables will end with the moral of the story is, and here are some common examples of what a moral or a lesson might be at the end of a fable. So something might be, don't hurt people, be productive. So if you think about when we did our school-wide meeting, put first things first, right? Don't put things off that you could do today, right? Be honest, so that means always telling the truth. Beware of strangers. Be brave. Be helpful. Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's the golden rule. That's something that we follow at Shangam, right? Keep your promises. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Be tolerant of differences and take responsibility for your actions. Now today I am going to read you a fable, and then you are going to be filling out this chart. You're going to write the name of the fable. You're going to list who the characters are, what was the problem in the story, what's the solution in the story, and then what is the moral of the story. So without further ado, I'm going to end this and hop over to our story. And our story today is The Tortoise and the Hare. And again, remember, I told you that fairy tales and folk tales were all oral stories that were passed down. So you typically don't ever see a fable or a fairy tale, say, written by somebody. This one says adapted by Sharon Eric Denton. And let's find out about The Tortoise and the Hare. One sunny day, a hare sat by a tree. The hare watched a tortoise approach. The tortoise was slow. The hare laughed at the slow tortoise. "You're the slowest thing I've ever seen," the hare said. "You shouldn't make fun of me," said the tortoise. "There is nothing you can do about it," the hare said. "That's not true," said the tortoise. "Do you want to race?" asked the tortoise. The hare couldn't stop laughing. The hare agreed, and soon they were racing. The hare ran very far ahead of the tortoise. "You'll never catch me," laughed the hare. The hare grew tired and decided to take a nap. While the hare slept, the tortoise slowly continued. When the hare woke up, the tortoise was crossing the finish line. The moral of the story is, slow and steady wins the race. So again, today, boys and girls, you are going to now take that template that's attached to this lesson, and you're going to write the tortoise and the hare for the title. You're going to tell us who the characters are. Hey, guess what? It's in the title. What was the problem in the story? What was the solution? And then what was the moral? Again, the moral of that lesson is really easy to figure out because it's right there. It tells us on the last page of the book. If you have to, listen to the story again, go on Epic and you can search it. Or as always, feel free to go on and read a different fable if you'd like. Or if you have a book of fables, if you have a book of Aesop's fables at home, go right ahead and pick a different fable to fill out that graphic organizer with, all right? Have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.